It's fitting. I've started the women's ice hockey question, so I'll be reporter. Volleyball question, I'll be reporter
too.
That
is how they design it, yeah.
What creates offense?
Defense.
What creates defense?
Offense.
No, the goal in the back of the net.
So you're crazy. I like you, but you're crazy because
At least if you're going to pick a trap game, pick the right ones.
Little fast footwork. I know your feet don't move that fast.
Brady, that's all flash, no pass. She didn't net it in the back of the net. That's not even a goal.
What are you doing pulling out Ryan?
Brady.
Are you ready for some debate? This Bobcat Breakdown starts right now.
Welcome to another episode of Bobcat Breakdown. I'm your host, Rose Carrata. Alongside me are my two analysts, Miranda Patorti and Brianna Trachtenberg. Are you guys ready for a fun debate?
I'm ready. I'm excited. It's my favorite sport on campus, acrobatics and tumbling, so I cannot wait to debate tonight.
Yeah, you pretty much stole the words right out of my mouth. Let's get going.
Well, since we have two acrobatics and tumbling beat reporters here tonight, let's see what you two have to say about the beginning of their season. Acro and tumbling is currently 2-0, but some of their starters are injured to kick off their run. Who do you think will be able to step up and hold down the fort? Brianna, the floor is yours.
Now, you're absolutely right, Rose. They do have some starters down, but on top of that, going into their season, they already had some holes to fill. They had 13 seniors graduate this past going into this new seniors. So there's 13 new spots they needed to fill when trying to pick who they were going to have step up. So I think it's time for some of these new upperclassmen, the freshmen and sophomores who are getting older now. One standout for me is Gabriella Pierce. Pierce has been a top scorer for Q in their meet against Morgan State. She had a team high of 9.825 in the 6-element pass. In the Iona meet, she scored a 9.7 in that 6-element pass as well. She's been great so far. She's been solid in tumbling. And last year we saw Quinnipiac, their stronger half of the meet was the second half of the toss, the tumbling, and the team event. This year that hasn't necessarily been the case. So we need people like Pierce and also Catherine Curtis, another great example of getting in, going in for the tumbling, building that up, and getting strong to help strengthen their second half of the meet.
So it's funny you mention all those empty spots because they were filled. 12 of those empty spots were filled by first years, and that's why I went with, the entire first year class. They have those injured players. Marianne Powers mentioned, that the first years had to be put in. They had to step up a little bit, and they did. But you know what? They can continue to step up more. They got the first meet jitters out of the way, both at home and on the road. So now they really have a little bit of experience under their belt. They really got to start stepping up for this team and filling in the spot just like any of the other competitors were.
Now, you're absolutely right, Miranda. She did say that she needed those first years to step up, and she's been impressed. But how can you expect an entire first-year class to step up into a sport that many of them have never competed in before and be ready to help carry the team and help them lead wins? That's a lot to ask out of people who have never competed in Acro, or if they have, it's pretty limited, to come in and learn a whole new sport like that. That's why I'm saying that it's time for the seniors and the juniors to lead the team. That's a job as you get older in any team, in anything in life. Your job is to become more of that leader. So now, as they're all getting older and getting ready, they need to start competing, they need to start leading more, and they really need to take on those spots that have been left for them to fill.
Yeah, I get that. But I think if they work in tandem with these older players, they'll be fine. Look at Anna Sullivan, first year. She's in the synchronized 6-element heat right alongside Mia Rose King. I mean, she's a staple of this team. And she scored a 9.6 in the meet against Morgan State and a 9.5 versus Iona. They're going side by side there. And, she stepped up to the plate. She did a great job. Those are huge scores.
And you're right. Who she's competing with is with Mia Rose King, who is now in her 6th year on the team. She's a senior. She's had her experience. She knows what she's doing, so she's able to help guide her and lead her and help carry her and teach her. So then that way next year she's ready to help lead for the upcoming classes.
Well, sticking with the Acro team, the Bobcats defeated the Morgan State Bears in their home opener with a score of 270.565, which is their highest home opener score since the 2018 season. Despite this score, what event do you guys think the team needs to work on the most? Miranda, let's hear from you this time.
So, although I think they did a great job in their home opener, that's a huge score, I think where they really need to focus is going to be that tumbling event. They had a 53.565 against 575, against Morgan State, and then a 53.50 against Iona. Pretty consistent there, but they had a fall in one of the heats at this last meet, and it's just, it's a big margin from their start value of 58.3. They have 4.8 lost in deductions, which is a lot bigger than every other event. in that meet against Iona, and I think that that's really where they need to put a lot of their focus going forward.
Now, I don't necessarily disagree with you, Miranda. I do think that tumbling is definitely something they can improve on. But one thing I think that they need to harp in on is that team event. The team event is where you earn the most points, and you have the potential to earn the most points in the meet. When it comes to those closer meets, the team event is where it counts. It really is the make or break point for a lot of those teams. We saw it last year when they competed against Gannon in Nationals. They were able to beat them a few weeks before at home because they had such a clean event, and then at Nationals some things didn't go right and they weren't able to. It's because of that team score. It really all comes down. Right now, Quinnipiac's starting value is 105.05. They've earned a 92.74 and a 90.43. And while they haven't had any really big falls and they've kept it pretty clean, I would like to see them improve more, get better, get a little sharper on those routines, have a little bit more clean. And we see it a lot of the times at the start of the season. It's a little rough. You're still getting used to it, and by the end, it's pretty good. I want to see that build up even more and have them have a stellar team routines when they're ready to take home a lot of these closer meets.
Yeah. But here's the thing. A lot of those deductions that were coming within the team event were from their tumbling. And if you want to look a little bit farther, going back to the compulsory event, they had a 9-0 and an 8-4 in their last two meets, which was significantly lower than their other heats within compulsory. So if you tighten up the tumbling, not only are you tightening up that entire event, but you're helping that compulsory score to pull up, and then definitely that team score is going to increase quite a bit too, because that was a significant part of that team event.
So staying on the mats, last year the Bobcats went undefeated in the regular season before losing to the Gannon Golden Knights in the second round of the NCATA National Championships. After last season, do the two of you think they can maintain their undefeated regular season streak? Brianna, what are your thoughts?
Now look, an undefeated season, it really only comes once in every while. It's pretty rare to see, so no, I don't think that they're going to have another undefeated season this year. Oregon is really good this year. I know that they were ranked 4 and Quinnipiac was ranked 2, but that's only a couple spots down, and we've already seen it in their first couple meets. Oregon had scored their highest team event in 4 years with a score of 99.18 this past weekend. The last time they scored that high was against Baylor in 2021, and they were able to beat Baylor. That is huge for them. It is also, they had their highest season opening meet score since 2015. Oregon is going to be a tough one for them, and I think their other loss is going to come from Gannon. Yes, they did beat them at home last year, but like I said before, they lost to them at Nationals. I think Gannon is a tough competitor, and I think that they're just not going to be able to take it home again this year.
I'm going to have to agree with you on this one. Do I think they could potentially have an undefeated season? Yes, but do I expect them to at this point? No, I don't. I think looking at their schedule, they have a bunch of meets that, they should be easy wins for them. You have LIU ranked at 14, Limestone at 10. Looking at how they just competed against Iona, which was 8, really shouldn't be a big issue. But like you said, Oregon is going to be a big challenge. They had that huge score. I think where they're really going to see how they're going to compete is they're against Baylor this weekend, Oregon is. So, based on how that goes, we can maybe make a better prediction. But right now, based on just that first performance, I don't think Quinnipiac's going to be able to, beat that score. Gannon, I think, is a little less scary than they normally are. They haven't been performing as well in these first two meets as they tend to, but you can't count them out. It's early in the season.
And like you said, they haven't been performing as well as they tend to, but they kind of been on par with Quinnipiac so far. And like I said before, Quinnipiac's team event is not quite where it is, and Gannon always has a stellar team event, and I think that if both teams keep improving, it's going to be up to Quinnipiac whether or not they can kind of improve faster than Gannon and kind of clean up their skills faster than them and be able to pull it together further, and that's the last meet of the season. Like you said, Oregon, they're a really tough team. I do think it's going to be a good test this weekend to see if they can beat Baylor. They do compete against them twice, so it'll be a good tell for them. But I think Oregon's just going to have it on them this year. Yes, they did beat them last year, but the Oregon looks like such a better team. They've done a complete 360, and I think Quinnipiac's just going to go 6-2 this season.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that point.
Unfortunately, it is time for our first break of the night, but don't worry, when we return, our analyst will be grading each Acro event. Make sure to stick around for those report cards, and Bobcat Breakdown will be right back.
not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. But you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test to know where you stand and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Be your own hero on smartphones everywhere at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Have you ever helped a fellow veteran?
Yes. I do my best reaching out to my brothers and sisters in arms.
Have you ever asked for help yourself?
Most of us, we're not gonna admit that we need to help.
You don't have someone to kind of help you guide those thoughts. It can be really bad.
It's just a beautiful space when someone can trust you and say, listen, I need help.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. It's time to hear from Professors Trachtenberg and Patorti. The two will be handing out grades for each of the 6 events in an Acro meet. Our first event is compulsory. Brianna, are they passing?
I will say they are passing for compulsory. So far, it's a B+ for me. I have to give them. They've been fine so far, but it did go down in that Iona meet from a 37.6 to a 36.65, and it's the standard. It's the base for each meet. So I would like to see them go up a little bit, improve on that a little more. It's what kind of sets up the tone for the rest of the meet. So if they have a strong compulsory round, they're gonna have a strong rest of the meet.
Yeah, I gotta completely agree with you. I gave them a B+ as well. Exactly, it's the basics. You gotta be strong with those basics because if they aren't clean and they aren't precise, they're not gonna be able to build off those to make those higher start value events in the rest of the competition. You know, you look at those teams that we were just talking about, the Oregon, the Gannon, they've been scoring. Oregon had a 38.45 in that first meet. That's over a point more than Quinnipiac had in that meet against Iona last weekend. So, you know, they really gotta just step it up. This is the basics.
It's almost like those easy points. You don't want to leave them up on the table. You want to be able to grab them and go for it, and you don't want to leave anything behind. So starting off strong and getting a better compulsory event score, I think, is really going to help out the Bobcats as they continue in their season.
Moving on to our next event, let's discuss acrobatics. Brianna, back to you.
For Acro, I'm going to give them the same grade as I gave compulsory, a B+. They've had a pretty good Acro event so far. They've had 29.05 in their first meet, but like I said before, it went down again with Iona with 27.95. Typically, it's a stronger event with them. They have Mia Roseking, who's always been great in Acro. And I think that it will be fine by the end of the season. I think for right now, they're trying to adjust, they're trying to get better, and I would like to see them push it a little bit more.
Yeah, I did go a little bit higher than you. I went with an A- on this. It is one of their better events this season. And looking at that, they got a 29.05 that first meet. If you look at that meet against Gannon when they beat them last year, right at the end of the season, that's the exact same score they got there. So although it did dip a little bit in this meet against Iona last weekend, you know, they really were right on par. And for the first meet of the season, that's pretty impressive. I think it is going to be one of their stronger events where they're going to pick up a lot of points. They beat Oregon in that first meet that they had. They beat Baylor's score in both of their meets they've had so far, and they beat Gannon, which, you know, those are their 3 toughest teams.
I agree. Like, they had a high score in that first meet, but one important thing about Acro is consistency. You have to be consistent in every meet, and I'm just not seeing that from them in Acro yet.
Well, continuing on, our third event is the pyramid. Let's see how your guys' grades stack up. Go ahead, Brianna.
I'm going to build it nice and high for pyramid event. We're going to give them an A-. You know, A- looks like a pyramid kind of. They went down a little bit in their meet against Iona, but they probably I think it's currently their best part of the meet. They scored a 29.4 out of a 30 during the meet 1 and a 28.0 in meet 2. It's really been a strong event for them and has something that they have been consistent on, I think, in the last 2 meets.
Yeah, I went exact same. A-. Looks like a pyramid, you're right. But the thing is that this is their best event, but they're also scoring super high, just like all of those other competitive teams. It seems like it is going to be quite a competitive event because everybody's scoring super high. So, you know, when everybody's that close, you really got to tighten it up. You really just got to look at the very little details of the event. and make sure everything is as perfect as possible. And because of that, I can't quite give them that full A, although I really want to. It's just a little under for me.
Great. It's it's beginning of the season. Always want to leave room for improvement. You definitely don't want to start up off the top, because then where are you going to go from there? You want to make sure that they're able to keep building.
So far, it looks like they're making honor roll. But our next event is the toss. So let's toss it back to Brianna for her grade.
For the toss event, I gave them I gave them an A- for this event. It has been solid so far, and they have scored decent for the most part. Like every other event, scores did go down a little bit for Iona, but they've had some really, really clean tosses. You see their legs are keeping together, the toes are keeping pointed, and Catherine Turper has really been someone who's stepped up so far this season. She's been solid in the toss event, and I think Quinnipiac is going to do great in the toss throughout the remainder of the season.
I had to go a little bit lower on this one. I gave them a B+, not too far down, but although they have been scoring well, it's under where they were last season. I feel like there is just a lot of space for them to improve. If you look at those other top teams, they are scoring under them right now. And I know scoring is subjective sometimes. It can be hard to compare scores sometimes. But it really is. It's going to come down to those little tenths here and there. They all add up. And, there's room for them to get a little bit higher in those tosses, shoot for the stars a little bit more. So I'm giving them some room to grow.
They're tossing it up high. You want to toss the scores up even higher and get them up there and really, like you said, reach for the stars.
Well, next up we have the tumble. Let's hear the grade, Brianna.
I think that they've been tumbling down on this event, especially this year a little bit. I'm going to give them a B-. They've made a lot of mistakes in both meets so far. They've had someone fall during this event, and their synchronization in the trio heat and in the quad, they haven't really been in sync. They've been out of time, and it's something that is super important for them when they're competing in tumbling. I think that this is a huge part of an event that they can improve on and really get better to earn back some of those points.
Yeah, well, like I said earlier, I think this is where they need the most work. I gave them a C here. Not only are they scoring a little bit low, they're giving up a lot in deductions. Like I said before, that Iona meet 4.8 in deductions over the course of the entire event. But they're only starting from a 58.3, and they're just leaving points on the table in start value alone. You want to take that risk versus reward. You want to be nice and clean, but to the same point, you got to get a little bit higher, a little bit harder skills. That's really where you're going to be able to compete with those best teams that are scoring 55s, and Baylor even got a 57 the other day in that meet, and they're only sitting in the 53 range. Those are huge points that they need to make up.
I agree with you. Some of those gaps that was left by those seniors that graduated last season was in tumbling, and I think it's been especially hard for them to fill so far this season. And I would like to see them continue to improve. Not having Farrah Chernoff, who was a star tumbler for the team the last few seasons, is a really big loss for this team. And I think that, I don't know if I would go as far as a C, but I think that it's definitely something they've struggled with so far.
Well, finally, we have the team event to round off this report card. Brianna, what is your final grade?
Like I said before, team event's a little shaky typically at the beginning of the season, so I'm going to give them a B+. While they have been solid and clean so far this year, I think there's still a lot of room for improvement. They still have a lot that they could clean up in the team event and make it even stronger. They scored a 92.74 out of their 105. That's almost 8 points off, and a 90.43 in meet 2, which is even more. It's tough with the team event. They call it the event of chaos because there is a lot of going on, but I would like to see them improve in this one.
Although I said tumbling was where they need the most improvement because it's going to play into that team, maybe I'm a harsh grader, but I went all the way down to a C- on this one. I just think that they're just not as strong here. When you look at those top teams, they're scoring 97 for Baylor, 99 for Oregon. Sitting at the 92 and then even that 90 range, these meets are going to come down to 5, maybe 7 points when you look at them. And, when you have that big of a gap in one event alone, it's just not going to cut it. They really need to, work out the little issues that they've had these first couple meets, whether it's tumbling, whether it's Acro or Pyramid, whatever it may be, they really got to fix up this event.
I will say, you're looking at all these higher teams and you're comparing them to them, which I get. Obviously, you want Quinnipiac to be the top of the top. But if you look at the average team, they are scoring higher than most of them in the NCAA. So I'm not quite as worried as you seem to be about the team event, but I definitely do think that they need to improve.
Well, those are all the grades we have, so it's time for our second break of the night. When we come back, QBSN will give us a weekend recap, and women's ice hockey is heading into the playoffs. Bobcat Breakdown will be right back.
You know you don't have to wear your PT gear anymore, right?
It's comfortable.
So how's civilian life treating you?
It's fine.
When I got out, I didn't want to admit that there was anything wrong because I felt like a failure. And then I realized, like, there's nothing to be ashamed of. So I started talking to someone. Maybe you are fine, but if you're not, it's okay.
Thank you.
If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Everyone has a ritual, that small thing that keeps us focused. A habit we never skip to clear our minds and elevate our performance.
But what do you do to keep your head in the game, to drown out the self-doubt and support your mental health? Because being your best isn't just about taking care of your body.
It's about taking care of your mind and mental health. Discover the resources you need to keep your mind focused and your mental health a priority.
Buckle up! Nobody is more prepared for an emergency than Dogman.
With all your kung fu skills and your canine fortitude or whatnot.
But for the rest of us, a good plan goes a long way.
Come on, let's go!
So, whether it's an unexpected disaster or the world's most evilest cat bent on destroying all do-gooders,
Destroy all do-gooders!
you can help your family be ready for anything.
No time to waste. Will you get out of here?
Get started today at ready.gov/kids.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. If you're just joining us, I'm Rose Carrata alongside Brianna Trachtenberg and Miranda Patorti. Before we get back into some more questions, here's your weekend photo recap from QBSN. The women's ice hockey team went 11-8-3 in conference to end their regular season, landed in the number 5 slot, and will be facing off against Harvard on Saturday. With the playoffs so close, how far do you think the Bobcats will go? What do you think, Miranda?
You know, I think they're going to beat Harvard. You know, they're 12th in the conference right now. But I think they are going to be able to beat Clarkson and Potsdam. I think they won't sweep them. They'll go 2-1. But they're going to make it to that third round. I don't necessarily see them going farther than that, but I will think that is an attainable spot for them right now.
Oh, I agree with you. They are going to beat Harvard, but I don't think they're going to beat Clarkson. Miranda, do you know the last time Quinnipiac beat Clarkson in Potsdam? Do you? No, it was in regulation. It was in 2025 years ago. They have not done it, and in 2022 they did. They beat them in overtime with a 1-1 in the regular score. But I don't think Quinnipiac has enough depth to go after Clarkson. I think Clarkson is just a stronger team this year. And it's the same core group for Clarkson that beat the number 1 team Yale in New Haven in double overtime to make it to the ECAC championship a couple years ago.
Listen, I understand it's kind of a stretch for them, but you know they beat Clarkson 3-0 at home. I know it's an away game where they did lose 3-1 in the regular season, but this team, they can step up under pressure. I think, especially with Kaylee Doyle in net, her goaltending's been great. I think she'll be able to hold them in it a little bit. And I think if everybody just kind of works together the way that they do in some of those really good games, I think they can do it.
Well, as the women's hockey beat reporter, I do hate to take sides, but I might go with Brianna on this one. We have one last break for the night, but when we come back, we'll be giving our final roars, so don't go anywhere.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here.
Wait.
What?
I can't drive.
Why?
My.
Oh.
All right, look at you taking the stairs. Who are you?
We're your lungs. We are proud of you for quitting smoking, but you still may be at risk for lung cancer.
A routine cancer scan can detect it early when it's more curable. Good to know. Well, I gotta go somewhere.
So do we.
Listen to your lungs. Get a routine screening that could save your life. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Everyone has a ritual. That small thing we do to keep us focused.
But what do you do to keep your head in the game?
To drown out the self-doubt and support your mental health.
Because being your best isn't just about taking care of your body.
It's about taking care of your mind and mental health.
Find the resources you need to keep your mental health a priority. Love your mind.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. It's time for our final roars, so I'll start us off. With winter sports coming to a close, I think it's fitting to talk about the importance of Senior Day. Women's ice hockey had their Senior Day ceremony over this past weekend, and it's always an emotional time. Moving on from a program you've poured so much energy into is an incredibly difficult step for many student athletes. It's a time of reflection for seniors and a glimpse into the future for first years. There's an important lesson to be learned for both of these sides. For seniors, they realize how quickly the time goes and hope that the knowledge they've imparted on their younger teammates stick. For first years, they're tasked with carrying on the legacy of their graduated upperclassmen. It's a heavy weight regardless of your position on the team. Moments like these apply to more than just athletes. It's so important to recognize the experience of those around you and do all you can to utilize it. Ask questions, pay attention, and do your best to help others whenever you can. You never know what you'll be able to teach someone new.
Coming to Quinnipiac was an exciting new path to explore in my life, but it was also the end of a big chapter, being a competitive athlete. I thought that I would feel lost without hours spent in the gym and perfecting my skills. Instead, I put my energy into broadcasting and creating content for Q30. Being on the sidelines of games and highlighting players on the court became my new obsession, one in which I still get to participate in athletics, just from a different lens. As I got more confident in my work, the more I was able to take risks and try new things, just like I did as an athlete. My love only grew when I got the position as an acrobatics and tumbling beat reporter. Suddenly, I was not only reporting on sports that I found cool, but a sport that's adjacent to the one that I spent those countless hours on as a gymnast. With other sports, I found that I had to learn terminology and strategy as I went, but with acro and tumbling, I feel way more at home. So yes, the transition from being an athlete to not is scary because you lose part of your identity, especially with a more rare sport. But you never know how little pieces of it will sneak their way back in.
For those who have never been to or seen an acrobatics and tumbling meet, they are not like other sports. Not only are the athletes cheering loudly from the sidelines after every heat in an event, but in each routine they truly depend on one another. In other sports, if an athlete is sick or injured, while they may be missed, the team is still able to move on and find a way to fill in the hole. When someone is missing from an acro team, the hole feels a lot bigger. Routines have to be switched, and many athletes have to learn a whole new set of skills. It takes time and practice to fill in the gaps when someone goes down. It's because of this that the athletes on each team have built such strong connections with one another. The success doesn't depend on one person, it depends on everyone doing their jobs and working together. Everyone can learn a lesson from these acro teams. In student media, in order for our content to be made, it requires a team of people to work together and step up when needed. It's because of each person that we are able to have the success we do. And if someone isn't performing, it affects everyone. There is no such thing as solo success in student media or acro. It is the success of the team that helps each program excel.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have here tonight for Bobcat Breakdown. Thanks for tuning in and spending your evening with us. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and X at Q30 Sports and check out our website at q30tv.com. Thank you to the producers and everyone working so diligently behind the scenes. For Brianna Trachtenberg and Miranda Patorti, I'm Rose Carrata. Have a great night, Bobcats.